Well, welcome to the Church Answers podcast. As always, my name is Jess Rainer. This is my dad, Thom Rainer. Dad, good to see you. Glad you're here.
Good to see you too. I always like seeing the world behind you. I was in a coaching call with a Global Methodist leader, and that person was telling me about how they're now reaching the world from Global Methodist in particular, but the North Carolina conference as well. So anytime I see something that is so missiological inclined, it does me well. I know I see it all the time, but for some reason, seeing North America growing out of your head and seeing Europe growing out of your ear does me good.
Yeah, it looks like it was this. Is this South America? Everything's backwards here. I think it's South America right there for me.
That's South America growing out of your right ear.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. For those of you who are listening and not watching, maybe you need to go over and check us out on YouTube to kind of see what we're talking about here. But I do have a world map behind me. It's been here in my office since day one. That was intentional, just as a mindset of, the whole world needs to hear the gospel of Jesus Christ. Every time I come in my office, everything in my office is strategic. As far as any type of decoration, everything has a strategic mindset to it. So
everything in my office is not strategic, but it's memorable. I mean, how many people actually have part of the upholstery of John F. Kennedy's limousine when he was assassinated and still has the blood on it?
I'm going to venture to say not very many people. I'm going to venture to say not very many people want that.
Oh man!
But there you are.
And I have it authenticated, have it DNA authenticated, so it's one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, you're an odd duck. I mean, that's the more and more podcasts I do with you, the more I learn. You're just an odd duck. You're fascinating.
One time I was just your dad and this guy who speaks and writes. And now you're saying I'm weird.
Yeah, I mean, I've always known you're weird, but I'm just you're odd too. There's a difference.
Okay, I'm weird, odd, weird.
You're weird, but you're also odd. I think hopefully our listeners will know what I'm talking about when I say, you've always been weird, but now I'm just learning you're a little odd too.
And I was in a speaking engagement. I'm trying to remember. It's not that important. Someone said, "You're one of the most eccentric people I've ever known." And I said, does that mean I'm odd? They said, yes.
I concur. I second that. We'll call the vote here. Hey, but we're talking about something as weird and odd as you are. You're a smart guy, so I will give you that. And you have always been on the cutting edge of the local church in so many different ways. Your track record is pretty good. You don't bat 1,000, but your track record is pretty good. I'm going to give you that.
I do not bat 1,000, and I call myself out on it when I don't get something right, because I want the world to know that, hey, you remember that thing I said would probably happen? It didn't.
But you are on point a lot of the time. And so we're talking about the future church, and this is right up your alley. This is something that you love investigating, research, praying about, just observing. And I love how you continue just to put where we are with where we're going and what that could mean for the local church. And so we are continuing our Future Church series. This is episode 2. If you have not caught the first episode, I encourage you to go back where we talk about a micro church. But go back and check that out. We're going to be spending 6 episodes talking about what could be coming with the future church. But before we jump into our topic today, we're going to be looking at the economics of the future church. We want to take a minute and thank one of our sponsors who is also on the cutting edge of education and academia. Wesley Biblical Seminary is continuing to find ways to help church leaders, ministry leaders, lay leaders across the board develop and grow in their biblical education. Wesley Biblical Seminary is focused on developing trusted leaders for faithful churches. What we love about them is they have this really flexible online format that helps fit where you are in life and helps fit your schedule. And so if you've been looking to get maybe your certificate, maybe a doctoral degree, maybe a bachelor's degree, somewhere in between, we encourage you to go check out Wesley Biblical Seminary. Go to WBS, that stands for Wesley Biblical Seminary, WBS.edu, and see what they can do for you.
I was just reading an email that arrived 25 minutes ago from Andy Miller, the president of Wesley Biblical Seminary.
Right on cue.
You talk about visionaries. Mm-hmm. That guy is a visionary. And it's ironic. He wrote me an email Then I was in a coaching call with a leader in the Global Methodist Church in the North Carolina conference. And that leader was saying, how well do you know Andy Miller? I said, pretty well. I said, Andy Miller's really a visionary, isn't he? I said, oh, yeah. So
Yeah.
2 things in a short time this morning.
Yeah, so go check them out. See what they're doing over there at Wesley Biblical Seminary, wbs.edu. Well, let's go to the future. Let's talk what you're seeing, Dad, in the local church, where you're seeing trends, where you're seeing new things pop up, maybe old things becoming new, lots of different things. Again, in our first episode, we talked about the micro church, which is different than a house church.
It is.
It's different in its structure. It's a little bit different in its goal. I don't know. I mean, we kind of walked a line there because I know maybe not everyone will agree with that, but there's a substance to it. The essence of it, that's a better word. The essence is different between a micro church and a house church. We talked about that.
Well, just going back, a micro church loves to reproduce, but they're not going to get larger in of themselves. A house church is more about the fellowship and about the inward focus. As a general rule, the other form is always looking. Hey, we need another one of these churches and another one of these churches.
And there are some house churches that do have that multiplication mindset. So we are making a blanket statement, but we're trying
for sure.
We're trying to cast more just a general direction for either ones. I know several people involved in house churches that are very focused on multiplication, but that's not always the case. So we talked about that in our first episode. Today we're talking about the economics of the future church. And Dad, I got to admit, we had a lot of conversations growing up just about life, but we had so many conversations about economics, business, and finance.
Well, just think of it. At one point, I guess you still are at Sun, but at one point you were a 6th generation banker, as your brothers were.
Right.
And at one point I was a 5th generation banker. It's kind of in our blood.
It is, but it's amazing, like our dinner conversations, we're focused on economics and investments and 401ks and 503bs and our Roth IRAs.
Can you imagine your mom and what she had to endure in those conversations? And she always smiled because as far as you 3 boys went, y'all never said anything wrong. Y'all never did anything wrong. And the topic of conversation that you created was the best topic. And so she would smile, and she may not really be listening to a word, but she would say, oh, those boys are so smart.
She's a great mom. But we're going to be talking about the church in particular. We're talking about a subject that every church feels, money. And so we're going to be looking at the future church with the changing landscape because we're seeing a changing economy in a lot of ways. And so let's talk through. We got 4 different things we're going to talk about today in terms of the future church and the economics. The first one that you're seeing, Dad, is the multi-stream model. So we're talking about beyond the offering plate. Why don't you explain to us what the multi-stream model is and what it means for the church?
And the offering plate is a metaphor these days. Mm-hmm. I'm in very few churches that actually have an offering plate.
We have boxes or a box now.
You have a box, but it's very common for churches not to have an offering plate. But it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor for giving on an ongoing basis to the organization. And usually that means the in-person. Mm-hmm. But I'm talking more about the weekly offering than I am the mode of the delivery. So now we're beginning to see more and more that financial contributions are strong when revenue comes from different sources. That's basically it. Different source. We've had them in the past.
Now, to go ahead and define different sources, because if I'm listening to this, I'm thinking, well, you're talking about checks, you're talking about ACH, you're talking about online giving, but you're talking about something different when you say
that's methodologies. ACH, checks, credit cards, any of those. Those are methodology. I am talking more about the type of giving that is usually to a general budget fund. How about that? General giving.
Okay. So you're saying there's been the general mindset for many, many years is that someone gives to a general offering. They give cash to the budget of the church. That's what's been happening. But now you're saying that's shifting.
And it's been shifting for a while, but it's shifting dramatically. Okay. Let me give an example. When I think of the church at Spring Hill, I think of 3 buckets. The main bucket is just the weekly, the ongoing offering, the budget offering. Mm-hmm. But we also, I don't know if we've gotten there yet, but I know we've had in the past, we've had a building or facility offering and a mission offering. Those are 3 types of sources that are common. You can call them different pockets of income. You can call them different sources of income, but The church that just has a general offering only, all things being equal, has fewer dollars coming in than the church with multiple pockets, but not just limited to the traditional mission fund, not just limited to the traditional building fund, but the possibility of different streams to go in different directions. You have to be careful. For example, when you set up another stream of income, let's say that you have a stream of income that is for your preschool or for your child care, and
Okay.
it's just focused on that. That stream of income can divert, if not careful, can divert from the main offering. So you have to be careful when you create these designated pockets. But I would say this, more and more organizations, more and more churches are giving opportunities beyond the budget giving. And I think if they do that wisely and carefully, they will see more income come in. If they treat it like another designated fund, you'll have people given to their favorite aspect of the church, which then can become harmful.
Okay. So you're saying there's the general, but the general budget giving, undesignated giving, but also you're seeing an increase in designated giving. Are you seeing anything beyond just say, a church member giving? Obviously, there's different methods that they can give. There's different ways they can give. There's different, buckets they can give to. I'm thinking daycares. I'm thinking even, some churches I've gone into some kind of joint partnerships with developers.
Mm-hmm.
Are you seeing beyond just people giving other ways that the church can, get income, for lack of better words?
Absolutely. And I think probably at the cutting edge of this, as a general statement, is the African American church.
Okay.
African American churches in general have had partnerships a lot more than other ethnic or racial group churches. And again, I realize many churches are multi-ethnic, multiracial, but there are still many African American churches. I was at one in Atlanta this past week, incredible church. And a lot of their income comes from in-kind types of donations. For example, they're building a new facility. They have gotten a private corporation. I'm going to hold off on saying what their private corporation is. It's a national firm that everybody would recognize, to basically donate all the supplies for that building fund. So now they're for that new building. So now they will be paying the labor to build the new facility. That is one of those types. They're very innovative. And this particular company wanted to do that. And so they did. I'll mention another one that they have. They have another one on campus, a little fast food called Chick-fil-A. And half of the profits, since they are using the land of the church on a busy trafficked area, half of the profits from Chick-fil-A go to the church. So that's another one.
Yeah. I know of a church in New York that this is New York, high price real estate. A developer built an apartment complex where the church was located. The church took the bottom 2 or 3 floors, and the rest of the apartments were above it. But the church owns all of it. Just that the developer gets the income from the apartments.
And I know of a church in Spring Hill that's got some vacant land that could possibly move in that direction as well.
Yeah. We got developers that are constantly asking about what we want to do with the land. But that being said,
you bought the land early and at an affordable price.
Right. That being said, we're seeing this more and more, that churches are finding ways to fund the ministries of the church. And I'll go ahead and say, just as a very careful thing, I know 501c3 status is important. Make sure, as we're talking about this, that there's nothing that you'd ever do to jeopardize your 501c3 status and creating some kind of for-profit. If you do that as a church leader, make sure you're doing it right. Make sure you're not doing anything that will jeopardize your 501c3 status.
Right.
But we're seeing churches find ways to do this. They're thinking beyond just even their existing building and how they partner in the community in ways that maybe potentially could produce income sources. So it's beyond the offering plate, beyond the weekly tithe. The other thing too, we're talking about the future, is just this digital generosity model, online first. You're saying there's a giving culture that is becoming more online first. And I think we've seen this, but has it reached its tipping point?
It has. It
Okay.
has. And it reached the tipping point in 2020, if you recognize that year, where many
Right.
churches went to predominantly digital giving because they had no other way of giving to take place because it was COVID, it was the pandemic. So digital giving has reached its tipping point. Here's where we are now. If you had seen where we are when we're recording this in 2025, if you had seen where we are in 2025 when we were in 2019, pre COVID, you would have said, no way. It
Mm.
has been that dramatic. The percentage of digital first is not digital giving is not new.
Right.
Digital first is a tipping point, and we began to see the tipping point. It almost toppled over in 2020, and though it slowed down a little bit in its growth rate, it has not slowed down in the percentage of giving that is part of the total giving of the church.
My assumption is younger generations are typically giving digitally. Um, COVID may have forced older generations into digital giving, and so it created a very quick, rise. Would you say that's the case?
It is that is the case. The combination of Gen X, Gen Alpha, and then COVID is put in the tipping point. And I want people to hear this well. This is not digital giving is new. This is digital first is now dominant. That's the change.
That's been a change. And two, I think younger generations are really responding to the transparency as well. And a whole other topic, and I think we've addressed it maybe in a podcast in the past. There's been a shift from institutional giving to societal giving, and younger generations are being drawn more to that. And so they give more on their phone as a reaction versus in the past it's been, I'm going to write a check just because we're going to church to put in the offering plate.
Yep.
And so there's been a major shift with that as well.
And by the way, I can't remember the last time I put anything in the offering plate, either at our church at Spring Hill, Sam's church in Bradenton. They actually pass the offering, but what they do is it's really cool. I like what they do. They look down the road to see if anybody's getting ready to give. And if they're not, they just pass it on. They pass it on. So
I hope we don't miss anybody, but I guess they have other means that in case they miss someone.
They have the boxes like we do at Spring Hill.
Gotcha.
They have other means, but
yeah, I like it. Making eye contact. You giving? You want the offering plate? Okay? You I can imagine how many people keep their head down during that moment. Like, don't look at.
No, I do this. I'm shaking my head back and forth like this. No,
I got nothing.
No.
I got nothing.
No.
Yeah, hand signals. That's good. Hand signals for that. That's
digital giving. I'm good.
Oh, well, I love it.
Being good. Let's talk about our sponsor.
Yeah. Just as we're looking at 4 different things about the future church, in particular the economics, and so we're at the halfway point of those. I want to take a moment to thank our second sponsor for the podcast. We love Upward Sports. We love what they're doing. We love how they have cultivated this missional mindset with churches about bringing people together through sports, bringing the community through sports. They have plenty of different offerings. We encourage you now, if you have not begun your 2026 planning, or maybe you've like, hey, I've planned through the first quarter of 2026, or maybe you're 6 months into 2026. I encourage you, if you haven't already, especially when it comes to the outreach of your church, think about how you can use sports to reach your community. That's what Upward's all about. Go to upward.org/church answers, upward.org/church answers, and see what they can do for you. How they can use anywhere from basketball to soccer to cheerleading to pickleball to running for adults, all different forms of outreach. And you'd be surprised what just one phone call, one email, one look on their website can do. It might just be the thing that changes the culture of your church, to where you reach younger families, to maybe where you're seeing your giving trends change. Who knows? But we love what Upward's doing. So go to upward.org/church answers and check them out. All right. So we're looking at the future church. We're looking at the economics of the future church. We've talked about the multi-stream model. We're seeing some churches begin to find ways to fund ministries beyond the weekly offering. We're talking about the digital generosity model, which I think has been a trend, but the major point of that one was, for the first time, digital giving becomes first as compared to in-person giving. The next thing has to do with the leadership of the church. When you're talking about economics of the church, you're talking about how pastors and church leaders, have a living and how they make their living. And we're seeing this co-vocational and entrepreneurial model. It's been on the rise, but Dad, I guess you're saying this isn't going to slow down.
The rate of growth is going to increase, not just the growth,
Okay.
the rate of growth. And we're talking about the economics, the economies of a church. That infers that we're talking about both the money that comes in and the expenses that are paid out. This is part of the expenses that are paid out. And quite frankly, I'm working with a church right now, about 1,000 attendants. So it's a pretty large church, very large church. And one of the things we're doing is we're moving them to co-vocational, and they love it. And they had no idea that they could do it. And they're not going around firing full-time people, but when that position comes open, they fill it if they think it can be done with a co-vocational person. And it's working, and it's reducing their expense tremendously, even though the money is coming in fine. They're doing it. So I see this going in an exponential direction of growth. Then there's the entrepreneurial model. There's so many things that can happen in a church building during the week.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that you use that for the right reasons, and like you said, make sure you don't forfeit your nonprofit status. But that's easy to do. If you get money during the week for something, you just reported that, and that then becomes a taxable income. It's not that you can't do it; it's just that you report it. So
Get that UBIT.
Yes, unrelated business income tax. I think.
Yep.
So don't think that you can't do it because you're a nonprofit. You just simply have to report that money. And there's so many things. Our listeners will probably have different views of government involvement in many of the what we would call the ministries and community things. But here's the point: government cannot do everything, no matter what your position is. And so the more and more churches can do, maybe it's in the arts, maybe it's music, maybe it's something that is a void in your community. A void, not a void, but a gap in your community. And that's another thing that can provide income that may not be your motivation, but it's a good thing to do.
Yeah. So you're saying church leaders continue to go more co-vocational. I guess I had a realization that I am co-vocational. I've always been co-vocational.
You have been.
I was meeting with some other pastors, and then they're like, "You're co-vocational?" I was like, yeah. I have a full-time job at the church, but I'm also part-time other things. And a lot of my staff are co-vocational as well. Some are just part-time because they only have a part-time job. They don't have other income, but a lot of it's co-vocational. So we're seeing that shift, that continue to grow, which in some ways does impact the economics of the church. Depending on, how that financial arrangement works with the church,
Usually it's a non-benefit package, which is, again, you're not trying to hurt that person, but the model of co-vocational does not usually pay for 401k, for retire, for medical. And so it does save money.
Right. But you're also seeing churches become more entrepreneurial. Again, that's talking a little bit about that multi-stream model as well. And so we're seeing this, you're seeing it, and I'm seeing it through you, these changes. The last thing, the fourth and final point, is the legacy giving model, funding tomorrow's ministry today. So talk to us about this last one.
Church leaders are notorious for failing to have an honest conversation with church members about what happens to their funds when they die. And many times you'll hear them say, "Well, I know they're going to leave it to their family." Okay. But what if they decided to leave a tithe of it to their church, not just 100%? In fact, that's what most legacy giving does. It gives a portion. They say, okay, we want our family to be cared for, but when it's all said and done, we want to say something about our life and what we have given to the church. Pastors and other leaders are notorious for failing to ask people for that. I mean, just hey, or maybe even some type of Art Rainer seminar or something like that, where they come in and they talk about these things, and you just ask for it there. I mean, it is a big gap, because guess what? The schools, the colleges and universities are asking for it. The other nonprofits are asking for it, but the churches aren't asking for it from their own members, and most of their members don't even know it's an option.
Right. Yeah, really not. It's amazing how that does get passed over. Younger churches tend to not think about it. It hasn't been a major topic of our conversation here at the Church of Spring Hill, but Dad, we can talk about it later.
Yeah. I mean, my mortality says that you should be working on me really quickly now.
In fact, I had a conversation this past week of a church up in New York State, and they did this. They're a church, under 100. They have, established church. They had someone who left a large chunk of money, $500,000,
Wow.
with their annual budget. I think it was 150, and so 3 years worth of church offerings in one lump sum, and they're going to use it for some really cool things. And so you never know. Again, I like how you wrote this down. Wealth transfer turns into mission transfer. And it's a really cool thing, and we're seeing a rise in that as well. So
what your mom and I are trying to do right now, everything is going to be left to our three boys. But what I want to do is focus on
are we talking your will right now?
Yeah, we're talking our will right now.
All right. Hey, all the listeners, you can get an inside track here. What's happening? I'm excited.
But what we want to do is we want to let a portion to one of the boys be given to the churches, your church and to Sam's church in Bradenton. But we want two of the boys to get a full amount. We want one of the boys to get a reduced amount to give to the church.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, Sam will be fine. He'll be good. So
I know he'll be fine.
He'll be fine. I love it that you guys are thinking through that as well, though. But hey, many years down the road for that. One thing you may think, man, if I could just have many years down the road, I'd love to get a deeper education, grow in my education. Well, maybe that needs to happen today. Maybe you need to go check out, as we mentioned at the top of the podcast, Wesley Biblical Seminary. We're partnering with them. They're one of the sponsors for this podcast. They will help you today get the education that you've been thinking you can't get today. They have all the tools, all the resources, all the affordability, all the access you need to grow in your biblical education, from anywhere from a certificate up to a doctoral degree. Go check out Wesley Biblical Seminary at wbs.edu. That's wbs.edu. And go see what they can do for you. Again, very accessible online format that you don't need to wait. This isn't years down the road. There's no legacy with this. Your education is today. And so we encourage you to go check them out. Well, this has been episode 2 of the Future Church series. We're looking at the economics of the future church. We're going to continue this discussion in our next episode. And I'm excited about 3 and 4 of this series because it's focused on evangelism, both of them. And so we're going to be looking at maybe some evangelism trends. These 2 may be the most important 2 of all 6 that we're going to be talking about. So we encourage you, our listeners, to join us when they release. If you're catching it after the release, go listen to it now. If you're waiting on them to be released, look forward to these as well. We're going to talk about trends in evangelism. We're talking about evangelism over the next 2 episodes. So,
and this one's being released in late November. We're obviously not recording it in late November. So happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving as well. We're thankful for you, our listeners. We really are. We appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening. We'll see you real soon on the next episode.